Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hangin With Web Show live. I'm GW Pomacher, and you are watching HWWS Web TV. And if you're not, you should be. If you haven't shared this with all of your friends, all of your family members, strangers on the street, people whose cell phone numbers that you accidentally got, those people you've been cyber stalking forever, share this video with them. Tell them what you're watching. It's going to be a fantastic show tonight. We're going to be joined here in just a few minutes with the creator of one of the most beloved characters from literature and television, modern literature and television, the one and only Macgyver. And you guys, you've done it. You've used it, Macgyver, as an adjective. You've used it as a noun. You've used it as a verb. You're going to Macgyver something because it's that popular. It's that phenomenal. We're going to share some great trivia about how popular this character's become over the past decades. And tonight we're going to be joined by Macgyver's creator. Please welcome to the Hangin With Web Show set, Lee David Zlotoff, the creator of Macgyver. And Lee, you've got a new Macgyver book out right now.
I'm amazed that you know that, Garrett.
I am amazed that I know that too. I actually didn't know that. We were just wrapping up. I'm introducing my son to the reboot of the Macgyver TV show. And when our mutual friend Alexia reached out to the show, I said, "Oh, there's a new book." So I got really excited. I went online like immediately. So I'm ready to get started.
Okay.
So, all right. So I'll tell you what, let's back up a little bit before we talk about the new book and talk about Mac and the journey that he's been on for the last several decades, from your imagination to the popular imagination of everyone. And he's really that character is infused into pop culture today. It's really remarkable. I want to start at the very beginning, though. Arthur Conan Doyle based Sherlock Holmes on his professor. That ability. It wasn't an ability he had. It was something a professor had. Mac has a very unique ability to see the things in a room with that engineering perspective. Everything from, as we all know, chewing gum and his pocket knife to anything that's laying around the room. Where did you get that from? What inspired you to say, I want to do a character that has that ability?
Well, it's actually a pretty long and interesting and funny story, which is posted somewhere on the web. The whole thing's written out, and later I'll tell you and your viewers where to find it. But the short answer was, I was hired to write a pilot for what they called a single, lead action adventure show. And what they originally hired me to write, they said, "Oh, we have this totally brand new concept. It's never been done before. The network bought it in the room. Everybody's totally excited." And I said, "Wow, this sounds great. So, what is it?" And they told me, and I kind of sat there for a minute and then eventually had to say, there's a reason it's never been done before. And they said, "What's that?" And I said, "I don't think it's going to work." And they kind of looked at me because, nobody likes to be told their baby's ugly. "Oh, look, what an ugly baby you've just given birth to," So they looked at me and said, "What do you mean it's not going to work?" And so I kind of explained to them why this concept wasn't going to work. And I said, "But, listen, if you want me to step back, you want to get another writer." They said, No, you got to fix this. And so ultimately, I went through several iterations, none of which the network liked. And so eventually, I got all my writer friends into a room, and I said, "Look, we're not leaving this room till I got something to get me through this deal, because I don't know where to go anymore." I said, "I got nothing." And then one of my friends, and I don't exactly remember who it was, said, "Great, let's go with that." I said, "Let's go with what?" They said, "Let's go with nothing." I said, "What are you talking about?" They said, "Well, look, James Bond, he gets all those toys from Q at the beginning of the movies, right? Okay. And Indiana Jones, he's got the hat and the gun and the whip. What if our guy has nothing?" And there was this silence in the room, and it just like went boom in my head. And I went, that's it. We put our guy on these missions. He shows up. He's got nothing, and he's got to make it up and figure it out as he goes along. And the only thing he's got is maybe a Swiss Army knife, because I got that from my dad, who was in many ways really a Macgyver character. Okay. And the next thing I knew, pitched that. They loved it. I wrote it. They made the pilot and turned it into a series. And then, the original series ran for 7 seasons plus a couple of movies, and then got sold, believe it or not, to 70 foreign countries. And it has pretty much run nonstop around the world for the last 35 years. So, do the math. That's billions of people.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible. And, and some of those billions of people I know are a group of TV writers in a writer's room. And every week they were tasked with finding new and interesting ways for Mac to get himself out of trouble. And I'm sure that there was probably a Lee Zlotoff dartboard. That guy, look what he's done to us. Now we have to find something new.
Yes. Well, that in fact did happen, because, I wrote the pilot, and for a variety of reasons, I couldn't stay with the show. Okay. And so suddenly I'm getting calls from the writers going, man, how did you come up with this stuff? The network wants what you did in the pilot. We don't, we write stories. We don't come up with these things. And I said, relax, take a deep breath. I used a consultant on the pilot. So I'll give you the name of the consultant. He will help you figure out all those MacGyverisms, okay?
All the things that Mac has to do to get out of a room or get into a building or whatever.
Or whatever it is. So over the years, obviously now there were several consultants on the original show. They obviously have a consultant or two, on the reboot series. So yes, so the answer is, the writers said, we need help with this. This is not what we do. And I said, yeah, there's guys who can help you do this. Don't worry about
it. That is awesome, man. Now, since it took off, and I read your quote, which is really neat, which is, you don't take all the credit from Mac because it was what the other writers did with him for 7 years. And then again, later on, there are licensed authors doing Mac stories out there. What do you think? When you sat in that room and you finally had that aha moment and you said, look, it's a guy with nothing and he'll turn the environment into what he needs. You said, you told him right out the bat that this character wasn't going anywhere. You didn't like it. Then you made him a little bit different. You gave him that hook. Did you ever think that you'd see 35 years, 70 countries, never not been syndicated? Did you ever think that this character was going to be that hot a property?
No, honestly, I can't say that I did. They wanted a pilot for a series that would last at least 5 years. That was my job, was to give them a character and a situation that would really kind of sustain. And so that was really my goal. But, here's how I look at it, because you're absolutely right. The success of Macgyver owes a lot to Richard Dean Anderson, the writers, the producers, the directors, all those people who made that show, because I gave him a blueprint, but that was no guarantee that it was going to become what it's become. And the way I think of it is, look, you have a kid and the kid grows up and does something fabulous in the world. Are you proud of your kid? Well, sure, it's your kid, but I didn't do it. I mean, it's like the kid did it. So it's like, good for you, kid. And it's, as you say, it's become a word in the dictionary. It's a verb, and it's on a life of its own. So
yeah, I think I don't know a person who hasn't used the term, to MacGyver something, or it's become that prolific in the world. And I can't even imagine this, as a writer myself, I just can't imagine what it would be like to see one of my characters become so ingrained in society that I couldn't turn a corner without bumping into my character in some way.
It's a wonderful gift, because I obviously have traveled around the world on other productions and, personal travel. And no matter where I go, you say the word Macgyver and their faces just light up, and they go, That's not just another TV show. That character really spoke to us. And I went, well, I'm thrilled, like, you're welcome. What am I supposed to say?
Well, that gives me another question about the character and his personality.
Sure.
That is one of the things that I loved. And it's one of the things that I know that around the world they've loved. And that is, Mac's a different kind of hero. He's not a shoot 'em up hero. He's a very cerebral kind of hero. And a lot of that, I think, speaks to the sensibilities, of course, of the time when you created Mac, and it was on television. When they came back and said, "Hey, we're going to do this again. We're going to reboot this thing." In your mind, any misgivings about whether this character would resonate with today's audience versus that? Because I was a kid back then, and Mac really resonated with me because he was nonviolent. He was a cerebral hero. He solved problems with his brain, not the nearest sharp object.
Right. It was bright makes right, not might makes right.
Exactly.
And I wasn't actively involved in the sort of creative approach of the new show. And I know a lot of the fans of the original series didn't exactly take to it at first because they kind of just took the existing history and just sort of put it to the side. And I said, well, look, you're the ones paying for the TV show. You do it the way you feel you got to do it. But the fact is, it's obviously found an audience because it's just starting its 5th season now. So,
Yep.
It's going strong, and there's a whole fan base just for Lucas Till in the way that there's still a fan base for Richard Dean Anderson. So
huge.
There's something about this character that just keeps speaking to people.
That was my first. The first thing that went through my head is when they said the reboot, though, was the very first thing that went through my head is, wow, he's such a different kind of hero. And my kids are now that age and a little older, and they were like, oh, what kind of guy is this? And I'm trying to explain the kind of hero that Mac is. And like you said, it's bright makes right, not might makes right. And their eyebrows kind of went up like, well, I don't know. It's not The Rock. He's not beating up people. And I'm like, he might beat somebody up, but it's not going to be his first move. I don't know what the new guy's going to do, but it won't be his first move. His first move will be to solve it with his brain. And so that's why I thought, wow. And then I did the reading online today and found out that this is actually one of the they love this hero for that reason. It really is.
MacGyver was, there was a time, maybe still the case, television kind of divided the household, Dad liked to watch sports, bit of an oversimplification, but Mom liked, the dramas and the soap operas. The kids liked the cartoons and the sitcoms. And MacGyver got to be one of those shows that the whole family ended up watching together, because Dad was always like, well, what's he going to come up with now? And Mom was like, he's cute and he doesn't use a gun. Okay, this sounds good to me. And the kids were like, wait, you're going to watch this show together and we can watch with you? Yeah, it's like, damn, we're there.
No, amazing. It just really, it did resonate with a great audience. Now, you've got the new book that's out. This is now, I saw you've done of the MacGyver books that are out there. You've done actually 3 of them so far now, right?
Yeah. So one was a comic book series that I did with a great comic book writer named Tony Lee. That became a graphic novel. All of them sold out. So they're mostly collector's items now. I think you can find some on Amazon and some on eBay. And then I did a nonfiction book called Macgyver Secret, which is a method I developed that essentially allows you to tap into what I call your inner MacGyver or subconscious to pretty much solve any problem. Because it turns out your subconscious is really the genius inside of you, not your conscious mind, okay? And with literally nothing more than a pen and a piece of paper, you can access that whenever you need it for whatever problem you're facing, whether it's creative, technical, personal, it doesn't make any difference. And so I had developed this for my own creative writing purposes and figured it just works for me. And then a friend of mine was struggling to launch, an internet company. This was back before people knew even how to do that. And I said, well, why don't you try this little system of mine? Maybe it'll help. And so I sort of taught him the Macgyver Secret, which is ridiculously simple. And he came back to me a year later and he said, "This is awesome. You've saved my company on multiple occasions with this technique. And it's not just for creative writing, it's for problem solving of all sorts. And you got to put it out there." And I went, "Oh man, I don't know. I'm a TV writer. Who's going to take me seriously?" And so he said, no, you gotta do this. So I went out through my network and found who was a PhD in cognitive science and clinical psychology who studies creativity. I reached out to this woman who, of course, turned out to be a huge Macgyver fan. Her name is Colleen Seifert, and she co-authored the book with me. And I kind of said, "Listen, this is what I'm thinking. You study this. I'm just a hack, I'm just a TV writer." And so she said, "Well, tell me what you do. Explain this process to me." She must have ended up interviewing me, maybe interrogating is the better word, for like 4 or 5 hours. And finally I said, "Okay, Colleen, you have asked me every conceivable question about what I do and how I do it. What do you think?" That I think you just drove a truck through the literature we've ever done on this stuff. I want to work with you because I think this is really something interesting. And so she ended up writing all the science parts of the book. So in the book, there's kind of like a story how I or somebody else actually uses this. And then there's an instruction of how you do it. And then there's a piece from her that says, "This is why this guy is not full of baloney." So,
Why?
and that did great on Amazon. And then obviously now, most recently, I should hold it up so you can see what it looks like.
There we go.
I thought because there was a new series and the fans were really sort of missing that original Macgyver, I said, "You know what, why don't we do a fiction series and pick up the original Macgyver kind of where, the original series left him. Maybe he's a little older, a little wiser, and see what that looks like." And so then I'd never written a novel before. So I went in search of a young novelist, and a good friend of mine who the book is dedicated to, Melinda Snodgrass, said, "I know this young writer who I think would be great for this." And his name is Eric Kelly. And I said, "Eric, I need help. I'm not a novelist. I've never done this before. And if you'll help me do this, your name can come first. I don't care. I know who the character is." And of course, he was a huge Macgyver fan also. And so we just kind of set to work on it and said, let's see what this is. And we'll do at least 3 books, see what happens. So we're working on book 2 now. We've already got an idea for book 3. So we'll do this as a series. And it's just another one of those, it's just another way of keeping Macgyver out there. So
that's fantastic. Now, you said the book picks up just after the series ends with Macby a little bit later. What were the challenges picking that character up so many years later now?
Well, the book is actually, the story is set in like 2018, before, the world sort of came unglued. And the challenge was, okay, how do we do the original character, kind of update it so that it's contemporary, and sort of create a world that makes sense for him to be in. Okay, and I got to give Eric, a lot of credit. We got together. We spent some time kind of breaking out the story and asking those questions. And what should the MacGuffin be? What's the plot? What's going to platform who Macgyver is now the best? And so then we had an outline, and Eric started writing and sending stuff to me, and we just tossed it back and forth until we both agreed, yep, we got it. And so that's how it worked. And, I give him an enormous amount of credit because, as I said, I'd never written a novel before. I had no idea what I was doing. And he said, no, let's try it this way. Let's try it this way. And then sometimes I would say, yeah, but I want the character to do this, or I want the character. He'd say, fine, man, your character, So it was a challenge, but I wouldn't say it was hard. We had a lot of fun doing it because we got to kind of go back into that space. I hadn't spent concerted time or intense time with that character since 1985 or so, or since the comic book series anyway. So it was great to kind of go, what would he say? What would he do? How would he react now versus the way he might have reacted on the original series? So that was great. We had a blast.
That's
I think
awesome.
everybody has a blast reading it.
It's 35 years since you sat in that room and had that eureka moment with Mac's character. In that 35 years, I mean, we've all grown a lot since those days too. How much stuff when you were working on this book? By the way, guys, it's Macgyver Meltdown. You can check it out over on Amazon. You can get it now, and so make sure you do. When you were revisiting this character after those 35 years, how much of Mac's growth is based on your own growth? And I mean, it's 35 years. You've grown a lot as a person, as much as anybody.
Well, obviously, I would say sort of unconsciously or subconsciously, that's got to be in there. But I wasn't trying to necessarily use myself as the model. It was like, what does it feel like would be right for this character as he ages somewhat? I think we put him in his mid-40s in the book, and it's kind of like, where is he in his life now? And indeed, he's sort of starting to ask questions like, should I still be doing this? Or is it time for me to think about where I really want to be spending the rest of my life? Is it just going to be one mission after another? And there's a relationship with somebody, a woman that he previously was on a mission on, and they kind of looked at each other and went, we really like each other, but we're professionals. We got to kind of step back and leave it alone. And he gets thrown back in with her again. And suddenly it's like, I'm not a kid anymore, and you're not a kid anymore, and maybe we should really look at this thing. And so they do, and then there's another young woman in the book who it turns out has some really mind-bending revelations for Macgyver. So, it's like, wow. He ends up basically, the three of them end up basically first as enemies and then as allies, trying to, deal with the bad guy in the situation. So it's kind of fun.
That's one of the gifts, I think, that of that character was always that it's not only the gadgets and the gizmos, it's not always the stick of bubblegum and the pocket knife, but for Mac's character, in so many situations, the people in the room became resources. Their interactions, that the sense of teamwork was always built into that.
Right.
It really did. I think it helped the character to get the legs that it had for so long. I'm a huge fan myself. Thank you for that. Now we have a little bit of time left here, and I want to ask you about some things that are going on. We did see you got a whole website reorg going on over there, and we also saw the Macgyver Foundation. Can we talk a little bit about the Macgyver Foundation and what you guys are doing? Yes.
So it seemed, given the nature of this character, that is, he didn't just grab a gun, as we said. It was bright makes right, not might makes right. So he was kind of about, how do I solve this with as little destruction and violence as possible? Obviously, there's that ingenuity, that resourcefulness, and then there was the fact that Mac, no matter how life-threatening the situation was, he always approached things with a sense of humor and humility, which, he was always the smartest guy in the room. He never acted like the smartest guy in the room. James Bond, it was like shaken, not stirred. It's like, great. England hasn't had an empire for how long? Get okay. So Macgyver, though, he was just like an every guy, an everyday next door guy, except that he was smarter than anybody else. Okay. So we thought those are really important core values that might be of use as we go into this new century with no shortage of challenges, putting aside the pandemic that just showed up for Christmas. And so we said, maybe we should do this as a foundation and look to do projects that really promote those core values: nonviolent conflict resolution, resourcefulness and ingenuity, particularly in a crisis, and individuals and organizations that can, maintain a sense of humor and humility. And so in 2015, you referred to it earlier, we did a big project called The Next Macgyver, in which we, with the USC School of Engineering, the National Academy of Engineering, and a bunch of other big, sponsors, we did the Next Macgyver project to see if we could create a female engineer type hero like MacGyver, because CSI proved that, if you put out models there, people will respond to them, because after CSI's been on, and it's still on, all these years, thousands and thousands of people decided to go into the forensic sciences because they went, oh, look, these people are cool, they're good looking, they're smart, and they're not about shooting other people. So yeah, that's great. Let's go do that. So
I can see that as sort of the STEM project's dream come true of a front face for a STEM project is you can't pick
exactly.
it. Yeah.
And although the shows that, we did a global script competition, we got 12 finalists. We had 5 winners, each of whom got $5,000 and were paired with a top TV producer as their mentor. We haven't yet produced a show out of that, but believe it or not, that Macgyver Foundation project really helped inspire the new Reboot TV series. And as a consequence, there are a lot of female characters on there who have a lot of interesting capabilities, So there was that. We're gearing up to do another project, probably in early 2021. And if you go to the new MacgyverGlobal.com website, you can see what the just a little bit about what the new project's going to be, and we'll be rolling out more of that as the new year comes into being. So
that's awesome, guys. The description of this video will have those links in it. In the meantime, guys, if you want to drop the links in the chat for us too, please, so anybody that's coming on to the live video, the live stream, can go ahead and pop over and check out all that's going on at the Macgyver Foundation. And it just, like I said, for science, technology, and the STEM field, Mac's the greatest front face you could have. Be smart, be humble, and be peaceful and get it done.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just awesome. Guys, check out Macgyver Meltdown on Amazon. And book 2's on its way, huh? Yes.
Well, we're diving into it literally this month. We're going to start the writing of book 2. So hopefully before the end of 2021, that second book will be out. So
that's fantastic. You could also check out again other stuff from Lee. You can check out Macgyver Fugitive Gauntlet, I believe it is. There it is. Oh, thank you, Nina. Fugitive Gauntlet, you can check that out. And also, please check this one out, because this one was the first one that went into my cart today, because I just thought it was a fascinating concept. The Macgyver Secret, how you can unlock your inner Mac and get into your own your own subconscious and bring out solutions to problems, right from the very first step to identifying what the problem actually is, not what you perceive it to be, and moving on beyond that. And yep. I'm looking forward to my copy arriving.
Okay.
Yes, I got an early Christmas present. Shut up, Facebook. I'm allowed. But thank you so much for spending time with us. We really do appreciate it, guys. We've been hanging out for the last half hour with Lee David Zlotoff, the writer and producer responsible for the character Macgyver and all of his wonderful adventures that he would end up going on in our minds and on our screens for the last 35 years, and now on pages. Actually, there are multiple pages. There's like a bunch of different authors who have done Mac books and stories now, which is fantastic. So check those out online. I got to geek out off camera, but I'm gonna do it on camera too, because I know some of our audience knows that I'm just a huge geek anyway. So you also worked on another one of my favorite characters. We talked off screen a little bit. I was a huge Remington Steele fan. And, that was, I understand, back in like 82. You got your start on Hill Street Blues. Is that right?
Yes. Hill Street Blues was one of the first shows that I wrote for. And then I think I wrote for a reboot of the Brett Maverick series for a while. And then the next thing I wrote for was Remington Steele with Pierce Brosnan, who went on to become James Bond.
By the way, I don't know. I want to ask you, because people think I'm crazy. When you it got Pierce into Remington Steele, did it ever go through your head that he was James Bond?
You know, at that point, I don't think it ever did go through my head that he was James Bond.
I was like 12, and I remember saying, "Oh my God, this would be the perfect James Bond." I had to wait like 25 years for anybody else to agree with me, and then finally someone did. But I mean, I was like 12 at the time, and I'm thinking, "Oh my God, he's just," because I grew up with Roger Moore,
right?
So I had seen that same suave. And I saw that in Pierce as he did Remington Steele, and I thought, oh my God. And then 25 years later, apparently somebody else saw it too. So I was wondering if that was you, because that was cool.
I don't take credit for that one either. I didn't take him aside and say, you know, Pierce, you'd be a great James Bond. It's like, Pierce, are you okay with the next script? Great, good. Let's move.
Good. We're out. Let's move on. Yeah, he had some. Again, you have a tendency to take characters and give them inspiration in the most unusual places. And for most of our Hangin' With Show audience, we're an arts and entertainment show. We love our movies and our books and things like that. And Pierce's character in Remington Steele, who I guess was sort of the title character. You'll have to go find out why I said sort of just now. Go on. You can find it on Hulu. And he found inspiration in old movies, which I thought was fantastic. And it inspired me in the arts, because I start looking at books and movies and TV shows for a lot more than just the 20 minutes of entertainment now. I look for the story, and I look for the heart and what you're trying to, the messaging and all that. And I don't think I would have done that without your character of Remington Steele. So thank you for that from my team here, because they all have jobs because of that. So thank you for that. Thank you for spending a half hour with us or so, Lee. We really do appreciate it, guys. Check out those book links. In the chat, there are links to the website and to the books and the Amazon places. Thank you guys for that. And guys, thank you so much to Lee David Zlotoff for being here, the creator of Macgyver. Thank you guys for logging on, for tuning in. Tune in again to see who we're hanging with next.